Good morning, Nanaisha. So nice to have you here. Thank
Good
you for
morning.
joining Spirit River podcast. Today, my friend Nanaisha is a trans-channel medium, the creator of Nanaisha Spirit Medicine, a full-spectrum intuitive healing practice that blends ancestral wisdom, energetic clearing, and higher consciousness guidance. She has helped countless clients realign their emotional, physical, and spiritual bodies through her signature method of etheric scanning, light activation, and grounded lifestyle support. Drawing from years of deep channeling work with the Ethereal Three, her mission is to help people release old patterns, awaken their purpose, and return to their natural state of clarity and power. Welcome.
Wow, it's so beautiful when you announce all that. I just think, wow, does that represent me? Is she talking about me?
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
talking about you, girl.
What a beautiful human being. I want to talk to her. Well, thank you for
So,
having me.
can you talk a little bit about your near death experience that deeply shaped your understanding of energy and consciousness?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It changed my world, moved me so deeply. I've had three, so I can move through them to, the most important from the very beginning. So when I was 13, I was in a pretty bad car accident and broke a lot of bones in my body and was hospitalized. But during that accident, my life ended that day. I was thrown from the vehicle and I was lying on the ground, broken in many pieces. And I remember in my mind kind of floating above my body and looking at myself and not understanding clearly what it was I was experiencing. I didn't know I wasn't alive. I I felt completely alive, but I was looking at myself. So it was a very strange thing that was happening. And I felt surrounded by something very powerful. Now, I have been speaking with spiritual entities since I was 4, and they were coming to me in full form. So this was a different energy that I felt. It was just like a mass circle of light that surrounded me. And it was 13 entities. It happened on my year of 13 of age. 13 energies came, and one in particular was my great grandfather, and his name was Anata. And I'd never met him because he was not alive when I was born, but in the spirit world, he was a medicine man from the Choctaw tribe, and he was my mother's father. And
Mm.
so when he came to me, he pulled into this force field around me. And as I'm kind of floating above my body and looking at him or looking at myself, all of these spirits, when I call them light body energies, because they were just all light, but they had a form and they were like 15 feet tall. They were just enormous, but they had these beautiful cones of light that were radiating out of the top of their head or the shape of their head like a crown. And then they were flowing around with their arms and they were like trying to move the wind around me is the best way I could describe it because I saw like thermals of heat waves moving. Like I could see the energy moving around me. And I would I would try to speak, but nothing came out of my mouth. It was coming from my head. And then this medicine man came to me and he was like right in my face. And he's talking to me, telling me that this is not my time, that I have so much to do. And these were choices that were made for me in my past life. And this life, I have to fix all of them, but I'm going to have to go back. And it's not going to be easy. There's a lot of pain and suffering that's going to be involved. And that's because I broke so many bones in my body being thrown from the vehicle. And it seemed like forever, like I was just floating in this beautiful space of comfort. And then I remember going upside down onto my back. And I
Mm.
remember going up, like the hands of these energies were underneath me, lifting me up. And it was just beautiful because I felt for the first time in my life very safe. I felt supported and loved. And I had a very difficult childhood. So that was a message from him telling me that we are here. We are the 13. We are here to help you. We are going to be with you, but things have to change. And my lifestyle at that time was very broken. It was not healthy. And I came out of that. I felt him kiss me on my forehead, but not in the sense that you would as a child feel, your mother or father kiss you on the forehead. It was like something ignited inside of my head when he got close to me.
So it's
And
almost like he opened your third eye, because I felt this with my guru, like he would just touch my third eye with his finger and I would
yeah.
boom, it was like a laser beam that shot through my
And
head.
did you feel the top of your head
Yeah,
move?
exactly
Like
like a
like the
circle.
plates. Now see, I broke the plates in my skull
Oh
in
my
three places. And so I felt I had a lot of pain, in the body, of course, but in this moment of death, I was not feeling anything but love and warmth and light. But I
God.
was surrounded by the Nevada desert, which was a mind blower for me because I could see all of the desert. And I just thought, this can't be death. I'm in Nevada. But it opened me up and then it closed again. So I feel like he sealed the skull because it cracked open. And maybe that's why it all happened, because I needed to have that cracking of the egg, I call it, to open up the cave of Brahma. It was closed for so long.
Okay, we need your third eye and your crown chakra to open. Boom.
That's exactly what he did, and he was the medicine man to give it to me, and he was the creator of that experience, and I was so grateful because I was begging for him not to leave, and I said, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. And he says, you must, my child. You must. It is not your time. And he says, I'm blessing you. I love you. I am here for you. We are all here. You call upon us when you need us. And I said, I don't understand. I don't understand. And he says, it's time. And so then my body went back down. And then all of a sudden, I felt myself take a breath and I heaved up, and my best friend who was in the accident with me was standing there pulling my hand up and trying to lift me off the ground.
Oh my God.
And my body collapsed like I was Gumby, or Jello. And my ribs were broken, collarbone, hip, legs, skull, back, fractured my spine. So I couldn't stand.
Who was driving the truck?
I was.
You at 13 were driving the
Yes.
truck?
Yes,
Why were you driving a truck?
I've been driving since I was 9 years old because I grew up on a ranch. And
Oh,
it was my mom's truck, and I was an alcoholic at that age. And
at
so
13?
at 13, yeah, my mother was. And so it was a lifestyle that I was accustomed to, and I used it to escape the pain and suffering that I lived with because of the abuse that was in my life. I couldn't tolerate it any other way. So it the
Oh.
lifestyle drove me into a dark space. And I believe that everything happens in a divine space because it was purposely put there before I came into the body for everyone. And this message was, girl, you're hurting yourself. You're doing something wrong. And I didn't have love from my mother. I didn't
Oh.
have love from family. I had no love from friends. I didn't have friends. My best friend was an alcoholic too. And
Oh.
I drove off the cliff at 90 miles an hour because we were fighting in the truck. We were both intoxicated and we were fighting. And so when we went over the embankment and then hit, the window popped out. We hit the front end of the truck and it rolled 3 times. So when the windows popped out, we both were ejected. And the
Mm.
truck landed about 2 feet from my head. And
You were so lucky.
oh, tell me about it. She walked away with a big gash in her stomach where she got like 27 stitches, but she was fine. She went home that day. I was in the hospital for a year. I had to learn how to,
Yeah.
yeah, I had to learn how to walk and talk again. I was in a comatose state for 2 weeks. When I went in, I remember being in the hospital, excuse me, and they were, cleaning me up and running scans. And then they put me into, I was strapped to the table and then they put me into the MR machine. And that's when I went out again. So I didn't wake up for 2 weeks after that. Then I was in full body traction. I was broken in so many places and I stayed there for almost a year. And when I left, they put me in a brace that was locked onto my body for another year to keep my spine straight. So after 2 weeks, the neurological issues where I had so much inflammation on the brain, I started gaining more feeling in the body because I had no feeling in my legs. And they said I was going to be paralyzed. And I just thought, nah, that's not right. And while I was in the hospital, the spirits came. I started, I mean, everyone who had passed in that hospital came in and talked to me
Oh my
every
goodness.
day. I mean, it was going on since I was a child. I was talking to spirits at nighttime, and they only came at night. So I would be laying in my bed, and all of these people who had passed away in the hospital were coming in and talking to me and checking on me and making sure I was okay, but wanting me to give messages to people. And I didn't understand. I thought I was going crazy because it was like once in a while it would happen when I was a child, and then all of a sudden, boom, there was hundreds of them everywhere all the
So
time.
so this near-death experience just opened the
The
channel
frequency. Yep.
completely. And so now you're a full-blown psychic medium and
And
you
didn't know it.
see all these people on the other side. So how does this affect your mother? I mean, my God, she must have had such a shock.
My mother said it was the devil. Yeah, my mother did not surrender to her gift. She also was capable of communicating with spirit, but she
Mm,
she she had a couple of personalities there that were taken over. The spirits possessed her, and so did the drink, and so
okay.
did the bad life that she had. My mother had a tumultuous childhood, and I forgave her and I bless her till this day. I don't communicate with her, even though I can. We
Mm,
have boundaries.
yeah.
It's not safe, and I don't speak with dark energies anymore. Then
Mhm,
I did because I was dark.
mhm,
But there was light there at the end of the tunnel that wasn't a train, and I was going to touch it again. I was going to find that light, but it took me the better part of my life to get there. And I didn't do the spiritual work, but my mother put me in after I got out of the hospital. My mother sat me in Red Bluff, California. She took me to sit with a chief there, and I did ayahuasca. And for 3 days, I was in a sweat, and I did the ayahuasca with the chief, and it was supposed to cleanse everything because she thought I was possessed. As I told her, I said, Mom, these people are coming and talking to me. I'm talking to dead people. Do you understand? And I was a teenager, so she didn't listen to me. She says,
now, Naya, was your mother, because you're Choctaw descendant, did your mother get heavily brainwashed by some other systems? Was
the
that
Mormon church.
the Mormon church? Okay, so now that makes sense to me now.
Yes. Yeah.
Because normally, I mean, for her to actually have the courage to put you being inducted with the Mormon stuff, and then she obviously had the sense to put you in front of a chief and have you take ayahuasca, and she had that consciousness to do that. That was a big deal,
Well,
actually.
one of her personalities was a spirit medicine woman. She worked with plants. She healed people all the time. But then there was the other personality who was the alcoholic. And then the other personality was the artist. She painted
Mm.
murals. She was a Western Americana muralist, and she did beautiful artwork. Some of her art still hangs in a hospital in California till this day that she donated to a St. Mary's Hospital in Victorville, California. And so I never knew who I was dealing with, but
Mm.
I'll put it this way. My mother walked softly and carried a big stick. She was a very masculine native woman. She had braids down to her knees. She wore buckskin leather and moccasins all the time. And we had plants hanging from our ceiling because she had a whole garden of herbs, and we always were making tinctures. So that's where my medicine came from, that person. That's
Oh,
who I
so you
loved.
were completely immersed in all the medicine and so many rituals. And
Yeah.
okay, now that makes
Yeah.
sense to me
And
now.
she believed in that side of the medicine because she grew up on a reservation. She
Ah,
was born in Oklahoma and then on a reservation, and then they moved to Jackson, Mississippi, and they lived in the bayou.
okay.
And my grandfather, her father was pardon me, her father was French, and her mother was French and Choctaw, and her grandfather was Anata, who was my great grandfather. So she knew about the medicine because my grandma Catella, who was my mom's mom, Catella, Missouri was her name. She
Mm,
was a medicine woman. Even though she was half French and half Choctaw, she grew up on the reservation too. And she knew about the medicine. And so she worked it, and she tried I believe because I communicate with her now, she tried to get my mother to open, but my mother was traumatized by a lot of abuse. And so it wasn't, the medicine wasn't for her in that light. She took pieces of things from her life and made it what it was, but it was always dark and it was always low vibration and it was hard. She suffered all of her life until she passed away in her 80s. So
Were you there when she passed away, or had you?
no, no, I stopped talking to her in 2013. Another, yeah, I work in 13-year sequence and 13 in the number and also with three. And
Mhm.
so in 2013, one of her ugly sides came through and I couldn't be a part of it anymore. She had open heart surgery and I asked my both of my sons to be with her because they were in California at the time when she had the surgery and I was in Colorado. So I called them both and I said, please go be there with Nana because I can't. And my mother was not the person to my children that she was to me or to my siblings. I got the worst of her, apparently. Out
Mhm.
of the six of us, I got the worst. They all
Mhm.
left before and they knew and they didn't help me. They didn't stick
Are
around.
you the youngest?
Yes. My
Oh.
oldest sister Sharon, who is still alive, she actually is the person who wrote the foreword in my book, The Ethereal Three, The Awakening, and she's one of my most dear people in my life, and I love her. She's 16 years older than I am, and I was born for her, I believe. I probably should have been her child, but she was the only one that really ever helped me.
Mm.
And she left too, very early, and my other siblings left. So I was always close to Sharon, but she went through a lot of abuse at my mother's hand. So, we knew who she was. We knew how we needed to live in it and in this experience with her, which was hard. I did the best I could. I was never in school. I couldn't be in school because I was trancing and we didn't know what that was. My mom just thought I was special.
Mhm.
But I would sit in class and I would go into trance and my eyes would roll back and my head would bop all over the place and I would start talking to spirits and I would just be sitting there doing this, bopping my head around because they were coming in and out of my cerebellum and taking over my body. Trance mediumship is full possession,
Mhm.
but if you have to allow it. So I wasn't allowing it in the conscious state. I wasn't conscious of any of it. The body was just allowing it. The mind was allowing it, but the spirit was like, I have no control.
And
You
what
know?
did the teachers say when you were in school and this would happen?
They grabbed me by the ear. They'd slap
Oh
me
my
on the
God.
hand with a ruler. Yeah, they dragged me up to the front of the classroom and made me do math
Oh.
problems, and I didn't know any of this stuff. I was very literate and I read everything. I was very intelligent. I had a very high IQ, if that's what you want to call it. And so I couldn't
Mm.
comprehend what was going on in that light because I wasn't academically brilliant. I was
Mm.
creative.
Oh.
I could tan the hide off of a bear that my mom shot with the
Yeah.
brains and the fat from the body and roll it up back and forth on a a big tree stump that we had in the ground because my mom was Native American, so she grew up making her own clothes. They built their own home. My grandfather was a moonshiner and a cotton picker.
Ah,
So
okay.
now you know where the alcohol came from. So it was
Oh my
it was
God. So that
generational.
spirit's been in there for a long time.
Yeah, and you know that common saying, spirit in, spirit out. So my mother refused to surrender to the energies and she drank to keep it away because she didn't understand what it was. She thought it was demon. And a
Oh,
lot of it was.
yeah.
So as I got older, I learned what was happening and I was in school maybe 4 or 5 years off and on through 12 years of school. And I dropped out in the 10th grade
So
and
can you
finally just had
share
enough.
the core message behind the Ethereal Three, the awakening, and how it connects to your spirit medicine work?
Well, the Ethereal Three came to me after the 13 because I had two more near-death experiences. One when my son was born when I was 28 years old, I had an emergency C-section and I died because my organs stopped pumping blood. And I was out of it for 8 hours. I wasn't dead for 8 hours, but I was out of it for 8 hours consciously. And then when I came to, I had these visions that I had been in a different life, that I not on this planet, and I was being guided by these entities that I didn't know and understand, but I felt very blessed, but I knew there was a lot of work that needed to be done. And the darkness was coming in more. I was having a lot of issues with a lot of entities inhabiting my house.
Mm,
And I was doing as much as I could. I didn't know the medicine then. I was still drinking.
mm,
Not a lot, but I was still drinking enough that
mm,
any of it was harming me. And in a way, it was keeping all this stuff away from me.
mm.
And, the next one happened, in 2023. So, I've had three near-death experiences. Like I said, everything happens in threes and
So
13.
very recent.
Yeah. And that was a possession by my mother because she
Tell me
passed
about
away.
that. So what
Well,
happened?
in 2019, I was living in Sedona, Arizona. I had had breast cancer in 2017 from implants, and
Oh,
I was near death. It was at stage 4, and I couldn't get them out because my insurance wouldn't cover it. And then my previous husband's a friend of his said, I'm a plastic surgeon in Newport Beach, and I'll do the surgery for you for free. Get in here, let's get this done. You're very sick, and I know what's wrong with you. And he told me all about anaplastic large cell lymphoma, that it's a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I said, okay, well, what's this mean? He says, well, if you don't get it out, you're going to die. And I was close. I was so sick. So we got the surgery done, which was a huge blessing. And that was October 5th of 2017. January of 2018, I was living in Sedona in a house that we had just bought. We left Los Angeles and moved to Sedona so that I could get well, I thought. Sedona doesn't do that to you. Sedona is a different experience for everyone, but for somebody as sensitive and as powerful as I am with the energy, it it knocked me for a loop. And
mm,
and
mm,
I was really in a depressed place because of my marriage. So there was his darkness, his alcoholism. I was attracted to men that drank. So, this is a pattern. And we don't break these psychic scars and these patterns in our life. And so we keep repeating them. We keep attracting this energy into our life until we heal inside. We're going to attract all this stuff that we don't like. And I was working with a lot of cancer clients since 2014. I formulated a hemp company in California that was the foundation of my healing, which was remarkable for cancer. Also, with a lot of Chinese medicine and Indian medicine, I put it all together, Eastern Indian medicine, Ayurveda. So I put it all together and I created formulations for clients. I did cleansing and I got people well, including myself. I should have had chemotherapy, they said, but I got rid of the cancer through the surgery, but all of the toxin that was left in my body I had to heal from because it
mm,
was in the lymphatics. So it took me the better part of 5 years to get well. But while I was living in Sedona, I thought, oh, I'm surrounded by all this beautiful energy and these mountains. And if you've been to Sedona, you know the power that it possesses.
mm,
And one day I was in the backyard and I knew there was problems with my relationship. I was quite aware of what was happening because I had been given knowledge at 45 where the ethereal 3 came in through a course that I started taking through vibration, and it opened me up. But it opened up 6 channels, not one,
mm,
6. So it hit, I was able to take over the body as the spirit and get rid of a lot of junk, open up everything, and then the ethereal 3 came in. But the mind didn't know who the ethereal 3 was yet in clarity. All right. The mind was only working in a small magnitude of what the power was that I was going to be able to open up in time. So as I'm gaining knowledge with the 3, I'm also gaining clients and I'm working really heavy in the medicine and I'm putting my hands on people and I'm healing them. And I'm working with Christ. Christ was talking with me saying, this is what you do. This is how you do it. This is the medicine they need. This is what's wrong with their body. So I was a medical intuitive. I would scan people and then spirit would come in and tell me what was going on. Well, the 3 started coming in more powerfully, but without names. And I didn't know they were individual energies. I thought they were one all together.
Can you describe them, what they look like to you?
Well, yes, I can. Um, Lyra represents the center of my spirit in my force field. Let's call it the force field, your etheric body. So you have 7 layers of the etheric body. So Lyra represents the center of my etheric body. Isola represents the feminine side of my force field, and Siren represents the masculine side of my force field. When they all come together, I call them the heavy hitters. So
Mm.
Lyra is more light and brilliant white, crystal clear energy. Isola represents more, I would say, light and dark. So she can be in a masculine field, but she could also hold the feminine divine. She's very balanced. But Siren represents fire. So I see them in shade and in energy. So fire with Siren, where if there's just too much going on inside of me, Isola comes in and balances that fire and cools it down. Like in Ayurveda, we have to eat cooling foods in the summertime to balance our dosha. And
Mm-hmm.
in the wintertime, we have to eat warm, wet, soupy foods to balance the dosha and keep it warm. So the three have been doing that with my body and trying to teach me. I wasn't a good student for a long time. I didn't stop drinking, I mean, completely until 2 years ago. I would still drink wine once in a while. I was married to a sommelier and we
Mm-hmm.
lived in Napa. I mean, I was just drenched
Oh,
in, I
yeah.
love wine. It doesn't love me. And so I had to make a decision that did I want to fully embrace this gift and be clear, or do I want that? And I want to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
So the three were teaching me, and I did the course for 11 years with Sanea Roman and Dwayne Packer, two of the most renowned trance mediums on the planet, who are no longer here anymore, but I communicate with them. And they say now that they have never experienced anyone that holds the vibration like I do. And it's not multi-channeling. It's three of them are all together. Like there's trance mediums that can have multiple entity energy connections that come in, but they're not doing three at one time.
So when they show up, so they show up as light.
They come in through the cerebellum. I don't see them in the mind. My spirit who inhabits this form steps out
Oh.
and I do what's like transcendental space. I leave my form and I step out to the right side of my etheric body. So the force field, literally, that's 3 feet outside of your body, I stay in that bubble. You can imagine it being like a cocoon of light. I'm in this big ball of light around me, and I just come out of my body and I transcend to the right side because that's the masculine space that has to hold me there. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
tethered by a thin line of light. The three come in and they always say to me, Nanaya, we want to welcome you to the most wonderful experience called life. May we enter?
Mm. So they are, do you actually hear them?
Oh, yes, they all day long.
Okay.
All day long. They're talking right now through me.
Okay.
So,
What are they
yeah.
saying right now?
Oh, everything I'm sharing with you, they're giving me the discernment and the clarity so that you understand and you hear. Because I used to speak in a manner where people couldn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's clarity. So they are the clarity for me. And they are love, and they are light, and they are blessing, and they are happiness, and they're joy, and they're God. They are that energy that is beyond con consciousness. They are the source for me. They work with Christ energy. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to look at them as very feminine divine with a little bit of masculinity in there. But Siren is probably the most fiery masculine energy I've ever been able to hold on to. And, she's very witchy. She's
Witchy.
witchy. Yeah, that word is very funny for me to use because I don't believe in the witch thing. But she says right now, okay, if you can envision 1492 when women who practice medicine like I do were burned at the stake or hung because they were called witches, that's the fire that I hold
Mm-hmm.
because that happened to me in a past life.
Mm-hmm.
I've done my past life regression work. I've done a lot of it, hundreds of lives. So she's that very strong energy that if something isn't working for me or if I get frustrated about something, she has to come in and push out that energy out of me because that's darkness. That's the shadow. So they taught me about the call. The call happened when I was 13. The call was to get clear. Then there was the shadow, and that happened when I was 45.
Mm.
And the shadow was acknowledging this darkness that was living within.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I had to embrace everything after that, which, was walking into the acceptance of these two things, the call and the shadow, and embracing it. And that's where I am now. So Lyra, being the light body that she is, she talks to me more than the other two, because the other two are, I would like to say, are smaller, and Lyra's very, very big.
Mm-hmm.
She holds a lot of space for me because she has to create the bubble of protection that I'm in. Everywhere I go, she says, "All right, Nanaya, stop at the door, bless yourself, bless the building, enter." Then when I walk out, I bless everybody in the building again. Because if I don't, because I'm so open, if I walk into a grocery store and I don't bless myself and clear, a person who's just passed away, like Ron, who comes in. I was at Albertsons one day, and this energy comes through and stops and gets stuck in my force field, and he's panicking, and my eyes closed, and I'm just standing there, my head's bobbing, while my hand's on the door of the milk aisle, and he's talking to me, and he's saying, "Who are you?" And
Oh.
I would say, "I believe you need to tell me who you are." And this is all going in the spirit world. He says, "I think my name's Ron, and I don't know what's happening." And I said, "Ron, you just passed. You're going through, I call it the corridor." I said, "You're in the corridor right now, and I'm here to help you." I said, "Give me a moment." And I had to, and this all happens in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So I grab a hold of his energy with my hands, and I hold his hands, and I say, "All right, Ron, there's light here. I want you to look up to the right, and I'm going to guide you into that light. 1, 2, 3." And he says, "Thank you so much." And then there his spirit goes up into the light, and then I can release. And then Isola comes in and she says, "Now that's what happens when you don't bless yourself in the building. Let's not do that again." So I have conversations with the three all day long. They talk to me all day, and they're
Well, this
jokesters.
reminds me. Do you remember the train, the train part of the Matrix, where Neo gets on the train and there's this disembodied entity that's running the train?
Yeah, that guy, angry one. Yeah, he's kicking everything,
And
punching
then
things.
I have to tell you, I have a friend who is also a medium, and she somebody died on the lake, and suddenly that kid that died on the lake, he was only 30, shows up in her house because her house is on the lake, and he's standing there and he's totally confused and says to her, "Ma'am, where am I don't know where I am." And she led him to the light just like you
Yeah.
do.
Yep.
So that was
That's what our job
beautiful.
is.
Thank you for that description. that is
Yeah.
that is
It's
delightful.
kind of hard to explain because they're not people. They're
Mm-hmm.
beings of light, so they don't have a form like we do, but they have a presence that's powerful. So if I was to draw them out, Lyra would be 15 feet tall, and Siren and Isola would probably be about 10 feet tall, and they would be shaped in a form of an angel because they have, we all do, we have our etheric layer comes like this, like wings outside of our body, and then goes around the bottom and comes back up again. So a lot of people, when they have visions, think that they're seeing angels.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like wings. So, but they are so vibrant and iridescent.
Mm-hmm.
And I see them in the the center. I see them in the third eye connection. I don't see them in the eyes. My when I trance, my eyes have to be closed
Mm-hmm.
because it's too bright. In the spirit world, you you can't allow them to use your eyes to see because it's too bright for them. They're in a lot of light already. And it's frequency and sound. It's loud. So when they start talking, sometimes there's a whole conversation going on between two, and then Lyra will
Ah.
come in, and I'm like, "Girls, please, I need some peace right now." Or I'll be trying to sleep, and there's a song playing, and that's Isola. She's like singing one verse over and over and over because that's the only verse she remembers that I listen to in the day. So, it's a fun challenge for me, but it has been a roller coaster ride and hard to get where I am now. But now I'm there and I'm okay with it. But for many years, like I'll go back to when I was in Sedona, what happened was frightening for me. I was in the backyard and I was connected in a different way. It wasn't clear yet.
Mm.
So I was in the backyard watering, and all of a sudden something hit me in my left shoulder and pushed me so hard, like someone went boom like that and just knocked me over. I hit the cement with my face, my shoulder, and my right hand went down to take the impact. I shattered my hand.
Mm.
I screamed. We had friends visiting, and they came outside with my husband, and Morgan picked me up. They ran me into the house. I was convulsing, and they laid me on the floor, and all of a sudden, Lyra came through and started talking. She says, I need you to listen clearly, and I need you to do exactly as I demand.
Mm.
So she told my friend Kat to put her hands on my head and her boyfriend to put his hands on my feet, and my arms went up, and she told Morgan to hold my hands, and they all thought it was me talking to them, but my voice sounded different.
Mm.
And he was to pull my hands up. Now, in my mind, from my elbow to the tips of my fingers was black. I couldn't see them. They were disappearing. My mother was possessing my body. My mother had died in 2019, and this was this was 2019. So March 10th of 2019 she passed. I wouldn't communicate with her. She had work to do. And in August this happened of 2019. So just a few months after she passed. She wasn't transcending the way she needed to. She wasn't surrendering, and she was in darkness.
So
So
she was
she was
stuck.
connected to me. Pardon?
She was stuck here
Oh
in this
gosh,
situation. She
yes.
wasn't
Very
able
stuck.
to. And so she wanted to take over
But
your.
when I was a child, she told me when she died, she would come back to talk to me, and it freaked me out. I was 7 years old when she said that to me.
Okay.
I used to have nightmares, Petra. I used to have
Yeah.
nightmares of my mother dying and
Mm.
talking to me. She'd die in front of me, and then she'd come back and sit in the living room, and we'd be playing chess, and she'd be talking, or she'd be walking next to me in school. All these weird things.
Mm.
I was a very strange child. It was very dark for me and scary. So when that happened, Lyra said to everyone, now I want you to take a deep breath. And when I say push, then I want you to push. And then pull, I want you to pull. So Kat pushed energy with her hands. Nobody knew what they were doing. Nobody'd ever done. These three people didn't know what they were doing, especially my ex-husband. He didn't believe in all this stuff. He knew he said I was a spirit priestess. That's what he called me. So he pulled on my hands, and I'm looking up as he's pulling my hands, and my arms are getting dark, and I'm screaming, and I don't understand what's happening, and I'm freaked out. Seeing my eyes roll in the back of my head, and then I collapse, and I'm out for, I don't know, a few seconds maybe, and then I take a deep breath, and my body's shaking like I just came out of anesthesia. So my
Mm.
body's shaking like I just came out of anesthesia, and all of a sudden they're all three looking at me. And I look up at all of them. I said, what just happened? And Morgan says, I don't know, honey. You told us something and we did it. Are you okay? My hand was shattered. All I could feel was pain. And my face was starting to blacken here because I'd hit the cement. And
Mm.
so my friend Kat gave me her vape pen that had a really heavy concentrated hemp or cannabis oil in it for pain. She goes, here, you need to use this. And I hit this pen, and all of a sudden I went into a trance. My mother came in front of me, and she said, it didn't work this time, but I'll be back. And she was gone. And I grabbed a hold of my chest, and
Mm.
then the three who I didn't know who they were yet, they started talking to me and said, you're in protection. You're in a container. You're in a safe container, Nanaya. You're safe. You're in a safe container. That's all I kept hearing. And I was looking around. I said to Morgan, can you hear this? And he and Kat and her boyfriend said, no, we can't hear anything. What do you hear? And I said, do you hear these people talking to me? I thought I was losing my mind. I sat on the couch, wrapped up in a blanket, covered my head, and I just sat there and shook. And I took a bunch of hemp oil to heal my hand, and I did energy work on my hand, and I healed it in 2 weeks. I didn't
So
have a
you didn't
cast
even go
on
to
or
the
anything.
hospital with your hand to put it in a cast
No,
or something?
nope, nope. I healed it myself. So I knew I could. but my friend at the time, Rose, she's a clairaudient, and we talked about it. She says, Nanaya, you had a walk-in. And I said, you mean a possession? And she said, well, I'm saying it nicely, but yes, that's what it was. She said, it was a Native American woman. I said, yeah, it was my mother. And she says, she's
Ooh.
angry. And I said, well, tell her to go away. She goes, you tell her. I said, I can't. I don't want to talk to her. She says, Nanaya, you're like 5% away from the top of the pyramid. You're almost there. Because I wanted to communicate the way she did, but I didn't get it the way that she did. Got it way more. So when I finished the course, my first real strong awakening happened. And in 2023, my mother came in again, and that's when I had my third near-death experience.
Oh my goodness.
I was
Okay.
in a really bad place emotionally. I was going through death of ego, death of my marriage because I had to end it. We had been together a 7-year contract. I had to stay for 7 years in that marriage to make sure it never happened again. So I was releasing that part. I was going through, excuse me, some tumultuous energy with my two of my oldest children, which was breaking my heart. I didn't have any love there. I felt I didn't have any safety. It was the middle of the winter. It was cold. It was in northern Nevada, and I was sheltered in, and I had my dogs and my cat. So this energy that was taking over, who happened to be my mother, was telling me to clean the house and to feed the animals and to put everything away and to wear white and then to lay down on the bed and to stop breathing. Well, no, I wouldn't do it. I got up. I said, I'm not doing that. Something's happening. And I heard this battle going on. And then I saw it. I went into trance. I had been learning to transcend out of the body for about 2 years and learning about the trancing. So finally, I sat down on the sofa and my cat came up and sat on my lap. And immediately I went back. And it used to throw me back hard. Now I hold it. But my whole body would go back in my head like this. And my arms would drop and I kind of convulse a little bit because the energy would enter. Well, my mother's spirit came in. A man had died in my apartment before I moved into it. They found him in there 2 weeks after he had died. So I had to do a clearing on it and he wasn't gone. I wasn't working it right. I didn't know what I was doing yet, apparently. So I'm in this trance state and my heart stops. And as the spirit and the source that lives within this body, I was done. I gave up. I said, I'm not staying anymore. And I have Sadhguru, who is one of my mentors. He was sitting next to me and he says, no, I'm not going anywhere, neither are you. You're staying here. And I looked at him and I said, Sadhguru, what are you doing here? And he says, I'm here helping you. You called upon me. I'm not going anywhere. I said, okay. And he's playing with his beard. I remember him sitting there playing with his beard and his leg
He
crossed.
does, yes.
All this detail. Yeah. And he's wearing all white. And then I look over here and I've got this huge Buddha statue, just the head of the Buddha. And then there's this battle of this feminine energy of a young girl over here, Anahata. Yes, Anahata, who I believe till this day was an incarnation in my mother's energy, was being called back. So the ancestors are all standing over in this corner to the right, like 300 of them. Anahata's standing here. And I'm sitting in the chair back like this. Sadhguru's sitting next to me to the left, and he's holding this space. He says, I'm holding this space. And then all of a sudden, Anahata says to me, Nanaya, you're in a safe container. I remembered that. I remembered that. And I looked to her and I said, who are you? She says, I'm not going anywhere. They want me to go back, but I'm not going. I'm not supposed to be here, and I'm not going. I like it here. I'm not going. And then I looked at her again, and it was my mother. My mother was shape-shifting.
Oh, okay.
And I grabbed a hold of my chest, and all of a sudden I levitated out of the body. My heart stopped, and I was away from the body, and I was leaving. I was done, and I was fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sadhguru went like this, and he put up his hand. He says, no, no, that's not happening. And all of a sudden I felt him hold my hand, and he pulled me back, and I looked at him, and I said, no. And he said, yes. And he pulled me down. If I ever get to meet him, I'm going to tell him about this.
Oh my
So he
goodness.
pulled me back down into my body, and then I heaved and took a breath. My heart was palpitating really hard. I jumped up. I ran out of the house and ran next door. My daughter lived there. And I said, Ashley, I think I'm having a heart attack. But the weird thing about it was when I walked out the door, Petra, I couldn't see anything but light. No
Mm,
buildings. I was I was still in that corridor of death,
hmm
even though my body was moving. It's hard to explain, but I wasn't fully alive. I was by a thread.
hmm
My daughter couldn't take me, and she and I weren't getting along at the time. We're having some problems, and she said, "Well, Jet's sleeping, Mom, and I can't do it right now." And she thought I was exaggerating. She knew I was doing some weird stuff in my apartment. She didn't know what
Goodness.
was going on. I was going through all these things that were shifting with frequency, and spirits were attacking me. It was an energetic attack. So I got in the car, drove to the hospital. They put me into a room, which was a nightmare story, which is in my book, so I don't want to go into that. But they labeled me as um, suicidal and shipped me off to a state hospital in Las Vegas in a mental ward
Oh my goodness.
and didn't test my heart or anything. It's a corrupt situation going on in that Northern Nevada hospital. They're doing this to get money out of insurance companies, and my insurance company refused the claim and sent me a letter and said, "This was forced upon you." And I was there for 10 days. I couldn't leave the hospital unless I took 9 psychotropic drugs that the so-called doctor, head of that hospital, refused to let me leave until I took them. He said I was manic depressive, I was suicidal, all these things. I just said, no, I'm a spirit trance medium. I talk to dead people. Oh,
Yeah,
do you hear voices? And I said, yeah, hundreds of them. Boom. I'm psycho.
sure.
Yep.
100%. I had a friend when I was living in Eugene, one of the heads of the psych department. Mostly she was working with schizophrenic patients. And she showed up in one of my Reiki classes. And because I teach emotional processing and inner child work, she came to that class 3 times.
Oh, bless
She
her
was
heart.
using that work on her patients because it's
Good.
the only thing that was working. And she would tell me these stories of people that were so extremely psychic. And and they were labeled. I mean, she was one of the top doctors there. She
Well,
understood.
that's what it is. It's a possession of energy. It's an energetic attack. This psychosis in the mind that people are labeling, it's we're not mentally unstable. We are not psychotic. We don't have all these personalities that are coming through. We're not multiple personality disorder or borderline personality. These are attacks from ancestral energies. They're not people that have passed that are coming after you that belong to somebody else. They're your own ancestral connection, your DNA, your human design.
But look, if I hadn't been in India and with my guru for 11 years as a full-time meditator, I wouldn't understand any of this.
Yeah.
The average person out there just does not understand. I mean, my guru was like an exorcist. There
Hmm.
were like a lot of things that I saw in India, people levitating, and some people celebrate levitation. I don't so much. I think
It
it's
happened to me once. I
yeah,
levitated that time
yeah,
in 2023 on the
yeah.
sofa, but I
When
was trying to leave the body
Yeah, yeah. When you see people crawling on the floor like snakes and talking
in
in
tongues.
well, I mean, the in tongue talking can be really a good thing, but then I was on a shift with someone who was very suicidal. In fact, she tried to take her life in India, and the master had invited her to come to India, and I was one of the people in the room with her. And I had so much compassion for her, and I felt so sorry that I didn't catch, that she was suffering so much, and I wasn't there for her. And so I was totally beating myself up, and I was totally
Oh,
reliving my mother's death at the time when my mother died. I could have gotten up and saved her and stopped what was going on, that sort of thing. It was like a replay of something in my life. And I remember reaching over, and the energy lifted me up and threw me up against the wall. This is when I really woke up. I mean, this is when I really had the ultimate lesson. Oh my God, I have zero power. I was just so scared. I ran out of that room and into my guru's room. I'm sorry, I'm never going back.
Yep, that happened to me. So I know that I had to surrender. I feel
Mm,
you, sister, because it's a scary thing when you don't have control, and everyone thinks they have control of their lives,
yeah,
and they don't.
yeah,
They don't have any control over it. It is a destiny that was predetermined for they came into this avatar of a body. And I have learned that now. And so I do work with that type of work, not so much demonic possessions, but I work more with, I would like to say, the lighter side.
yeah.
The dark energy I don't want to be a part of, and I don't blame you for not wanting to do it either because it's hard on you. That is a calling for the Brahmin, in my opinion.
Yeah, I did it for 11 years. It was a lot, and then I had enough.
Yeah.
Just wanted to have a normal life, whatever normal means. It wasn't really normal. It never became normal with that journey. I mean, it became even more crazy after that because I was running from it.
Yeah, and it was chasing you. You know, that's
Yeah.
what happened to me. I was running from this entity of my mother, and I thought I got rid of her in Sedona. And in Nevada, she manifested in this form where I could actually see her, feel her, and witness her in my body. And she was going to destroy the body. She didn't care if I lived or not. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just release it. I'm tired of fighting this. And that's why I transcended out of the body. I knew how to do that. I can leave the body anytime.
So tell me, where is she now? Was she finally released from this bondage here? I mean, is she
Oh,
finally on
yeah.
the other side?
So
And
I came,
what was the karma with her? I mean, I'm just really curious what your past life engagement with her was. Because as a mother, you think, mother, she has love for the child, compassion. I mean, I think of my mother more like the Mother Mary energy. She was so sweet and so loving and so kind. And, I miss my mother. She died when I was 16.
I would have loved to have had that.
Yeah.
Just
But
yeah,
tell me,
5 minutes of it, I would have given anything to have 5 minutes of wonderful than a lifetime of nothing special.
yeah. So what happened with your mother now?
Well, my mother's abuse in her childhood and her life was brought on from my grandmother. So this is a generational thing through the feminine divine energies. My
Mm,
great grandmother, my great great grandmother, all spirit medicine women, all channels. So this started thousands of years ago
mhm,
and places of deep rooted darkness where the energies then and the people who inhabited, that space, let's just say from the beginning of my DNA, that first feminine divine energy, she wasn't a good person in her human life. So she created that neurodivergent energy that we have in our cellular makeup and it stayed. So when she had a child, it went into the DNA of the child, so on and so forth. So pain, suffering, and survival was what my lineage was. I had to be the one to break it. My
mm,
children didn't have pain and suffering. I was a great mother. I gave my children so much love because I never had it. I didn't
mm,
know what it was to be a mom. I didn't know what it was to be safe. I had no idea what that was until I was old enough to create my own safety. And when I started having children, I had 4 kids and I knew I had to do better. I had to give them what I couldn't have as a child and what I desperately needed from a mother. I didn't have a father either. And so my mother's connection to me was we had this quantum entanglement
mm.
and she didn't want to fix it. My grandmother Catella didn't know how to fix it. There were no lessons. Nobody understood. The Native American side of my life was working with dark spirits.
Right. Yeah.
So they walked the land. They were slaughtered. My family's generation and my heritage came from the blood of or the Trail of Tears.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So a
God.
lot of that suffering there was still in my DNA.
Mm,
So when it came into me, I really I hold a lot of my
mm,
native roots, and I'm proud of who I am. I would love to know more about my heritage, so I work with my great grandfather's energy, who has been gifting me with a lot of knowledge. He
yeah.
calls me, my name Nanaya means peaceful warrior who stands with fists of fire.
Oh, my goodness.
And so he's had to teach me through my ayahuasca ceremonies, which have been two. I did one when I was 13 or almost 14, and then I did another one in 2022, which was the message he came in and gave me and said, you need to get out of your marriage. He says, if you want to stop this destructive life that you've had, you have to end this relationship and you have to do it now. You have to stop drinking. You have to start eating properly. You have to start exercising every day. You have to start making yourself the priority. Where is your love? Why don't you love yourself, Nanaya? Look at the light. Then the purge would come. Every
Mhm.
night that he would come and it was a new message. Look at the light. Purge would come.
So where's your mother now?
Well, when I got out of that hospital in Las Vegas, I started taking all the pills they told me to take because the head nurse told me that that's what I needed to do to get out. He lied to everybody and didn't tell them what I was doing, but he came to me in private and said, act like you're swallowing it, then go to the bathroom and spit it out. So I did.
Okay.
And they let me out 3 days later. They flew me back to Northern Nevada, to Elko.
Mhm.
And that night, I went next door to my daughter and I said, she was going to move into my apartment after I was going to leave. My lease was going out. This was in April now.
Okay.
And I said, I'm leaving in a month and I need you to come into the house and we need to pray together so that the energy here is free and clear when you come in. So I dragged her over there and she sat down with me and we prayed. I prayed over her. I prayed over the house and I asked God to bless the whole space because there was a lot of tumultuous energy in there with me. And it was all white. My whole house was white, white curtains, white fabric, white. I wore white every day. And so my daughter went back to her house and I felt this hard, nasty, dark vibration come in after she walked out the door. And so Lyra came in and she said, Nanaya, I need you to turn off the music, leave one light on, and I
Mhm.
need you to go next door to Ashley's house and I will call you back when it's time. I have some work to do. I did never argue. I still don't.
Mhm.
I I left the dogs there. Blair, who's my support dog. She really is my protector. I left her there with the little two dogs and the cat. And I walked next door to Ashley's and I just sat there for 20 minutes just shaking because I didn't have the three with me. So I felt very detached. I always had this safety net with them. And I didn't have this protection. I felt very vulnerable. Plus, I just spent 10 days in a psych ward.
Yeah.
And girl, I walked around, my hair was bright blonde too. I walked around in this white gown like I was Jesus. My hands were open like this, my palms out, and I walked out. I walked and approached every human in that building, and we had mixed use. It was women and men on the same floor, and I was blessing every human. I was touching them. I was praying over them. I was touching their third eye. I was anointing them with Christ's light and energy, and it was coming through me, and I was talking. So they thought I was crazy, right? And
Sure.
all these people were crying after I would do this blessing for them. The people were walking into my room, which isn't allowed. So they'd walk in, they'd say, Nanaya, please bless me. And I would bless them from the door. And then finally I got out of there and went home. And so that night, I'm over at my daughter's house and I immediately had a connection. The three sent it's like a a string of light when they're out of my body, out of my force field. So that string of light came in immediately, and Lyra and Isola were holding around me like they had their arms around me, giving me love. And Lyra said, "Now I want you to focus, and I want you to come in to this with clarity." And I was just sitting on the couch. I wasn't doing anything where my daughter would. She was so scared of this. My eyes were just closed. Excuse me. And so I just sat there with my arms folded, with my eyes closed, and I was now in the apartment. And I was standing 15 feet away from the front door, looking at the front door. On my right was Jesus. Next to him was an old friend of my ex-husband's. I call him the Ray of Light. It was his name was Ray, Dr. Ray. He was the one who taught me about raw juice cleansing, who saved my life when I had cancer. He had passed, so he was there. To my left and all around me were about a few hundred of my ancestors of light bodies,
Mhm.
the real powerful ones. And my dog, Blair, who had her collar on, and I didn't put her collar on before I walked out of the house. Lyra put the collar on.
Mm.
So I'm standing there. Lyra's holding me. holding Blair's collar, which had metal on it because metal keeps you grounded. Sadhguru talks about this in a lot of his speeches, where that's why he has an ankle, a piece of copper wrapped around his ankle. He says, when that's no longer there, I'm leaving my body, like his wife did. She left when she wanted to and never came back. So Lyra says, Nanaya, stay here with me. And Lyra was there. Not, I was with her, but I wasn't there. I was over at my daughter's house. So in the mind, I'm there. And so Jesus is blessing, and he literally says this. He says, in the name of my Father, and as his Son and the Holy Spirit, I command you to leave now. And all of the energies just exploded with light, and my mother exploded into tiny nanoparticles. And I watched her just, her whole everything. Like she was really there, Petra. Like her body was there, and I saw her head was like a juggernaut. It was shaking like this violently. And then all of a sudden she just exploded, and they just blew on her with their energy like they were going. And I felt my body move like this, and I pushed my hands like this, and all of a sudden all this heat was there, and I just held it, and Lyra said, now come home. I was so scared, girl. I did not want to go in the house.
Oh, I bet.
I said, no, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. She says, you need to come in now. She says, kiss the baby, kiss your daughter. Tell her you'll see her in the morning. You come home now. I was so scared. My heart was beating. I didn't know what I was going to walk into because my mother done this twice. So I walked back into the apartment. And as I closed the door behind me, Blair was sitting there on the floor with her collar on. What happened? And then I sat down, and the ethereal three came around, and they stood in front of me. It was the first time I saw them. And they said, we are now here.
I actually saw them.
Yep. They said, we are here with you. We are your protectors. We're never going to leave you. You are safe. And I cried.
And your mother was gone.
Gone. She's never come back. She's tried to tap in a couple of times. They protect it. They don't allow it. It'll never happen. She'll never ever. No, she's in darkness. She needs my forgiveness.
She's in darkness still?
Yes. Oh yeah. She's a demonic energy. You know how when I was at your house, we were talking about the lizard tongue or the tongue. That was my mother. She had a long tongue, and she slithered around, and she represented the darkness in her life, and that's where she is trapped. She is not a light body. Not all humans are. We have demonic energy on this planet because we have to have ebb and flow. I'm sorry, but that's what happens. We have to have darkness with the light. And it's a battle going on. Our etheric bodies in the light world are fighting the dark ones. And they're etheric too.
You learned a lot from your mother. You learned a lot.
Yes, and so that is the connection that you asked a moment ago.
One of your best teachers, no doubt.
Yes, I had to go through that to understand who I was going to become and who I needed to leave behind. And I needed to end the lineage. I cut the tie so it will never happen to my children. My children don't drink. And my children, they may be in difficult transition with learning, and a couple of them may be having a hard time with surrendering. But it's not my responsibility now. I bless them and I release it to God. I just ask God, please watch over my children and help them make good choices and guide them down the path of knowledge and enlightenment. And hopefully they will get there. But I hold that space for them without it taking me down as a mother. You know, it's like your heart just breaks for them. But I can't do anything to fix it. So the karma that came from my mom affected me because she birthed me. She was going through it while I was in utero. While I was inside of her body, this turmoil was happening. But the lineage of the channel connection, that came to me from centuries before. You know, I have been psychically connected as a claircognizant energy who now channels multi-spirits at one time together through 6 channels of connectivity through the mind. And the mind is a sponge. That's all it is. It's just a place to hold information. So it's a file cabinet. I take out the files when I need them, and she's asleep the rest of the time. I call her she because she's a muscle. I'm the spirit that inhabits the form and controls everything now. I'm no longer controlled by ego. My ego died that night. And as I was packing up to move out of that house, it was like I went through an exorcism on my own.
Mm,
And that's what I did. And when you told me that first conversation we had about you going through the exorcism stuff, I was like, yep, I did that by myself for myself. So I know I can do it for others. But it's scary. The dark
mhm,
side is scary. And we think that it's, you know, we're dealing with darkness on the planet in front of us in our visual acuity. But when you get out of that and you go into the shadow, and that's where I'm good at, being in shamanic energy, we walk into the shadow world. But we
mhm,
have to have light around us to do that. So true shaman means
mhm,
that we walk in the light with God. We are there present with it, with that light. And so now I'm able to clear people. I do past life regression work. I clear buildings. I clear people. I clear things. I clear animals. I help people get well. I get rid of sickness. And I've been doing it for a long time with clarity. When I don't
So,
have it, then I don't work.
so can you talk a little bit about your new book that is coming out?
Yes, and thank you for all of your insight with that. I've been doing a lot of restructuring on it. I had finished it, I thought, and then we talked. And now I know I need to do more. I need it to be more detailed. It is a memoir fantasy.
Mhm,
So a good portion of it is in a realistic way about my life and then just kind of a little bit of glitter sprinkled all over it to make it a fantasy story. But it is me awakening and surrendering and learning how to stand in my sovereignty as this spirit medicine woman that I am today, as this broken child. Naya Bell, who is the protagonist in the story, she has to embrace all of this darkness throughout her life in order to awaken into the light. And by doing so, she has to lose things and people along the way that she felt were needed in her life, but they truly weren't. So she grows with the energy and it becomes her. And she becomes like a spiritual ninja. She fights the demons at nighttime with these ethereal arrows and a bow, and she shoots them into the humans and they disintegrate because they're demons. So it's a real fun, theatrical dark story that's going to be turned into a film. I'm writing a screenplay as well. And the book will be finalized. There's a three-part series to it. This one is the first one, which is called The Ethereal Three, The Awakening. And this is where Naya Bell awakens into her true self and her true spirit to the ethereal three energies, Lyra, Isola, and Siren. But with the 13 holding space there for her all the time, guided by her great-grandfather's energy.
beautiful. And how can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can visit my website at nanayaspiritmedicine.com. They can follow me through social media. I'm on Facebook at Nanaya Craft and also Nanaya Spirit Medicine on Instagram. And if they're in Medford, Oregon, they can find me that way too. So
And
I will be working out of a beautiful facility, 1390 Biddle Road in Medford very soon. We're opening a wonderful healing space there to bring in people that are in need. I do work with the medicines still with the herbs, so I create tinctures and formulas for people to heal their body from. I'm also a holistic nutritionist and Ayurvedic practitioner for over 20 years, so my knowledge is very deep. I work with cleansing the gut and healing the body from the ground up, and full body transformation.
and don't forget the pizza that you made for us.
Oh yes, and that was my fun thing that I created was the artisan pizza Italiano style. So I created a fun thing and I have what's called the artisan three pizzas, pardon my dog. And I started a little mobile business and now I'm doing it where I par bake the pizza and freeze it in an air sealed bag and then I ship it to you so that you can take it into your kitchen and bake it in your oven with all the love and nutritious organic ingredients that I put together, including the flour. It's all from Italy and it's
I
so
have
good for you.
I have to tell you, I've been researching these pizza ovens. I have a list that
Good.
to go
Don't go with
through.
the Oni, whatever you do. Don't
So
get an Oni.
do you have any last message for our audience here that you would like
Oh, I
to
do.
leave with us?
Mm. Please walk gently. Carry yourself with grace and love. and know that you are the most wonderful, sophisticated mechanism on the planet. You just need to start reading your user manual. And feel blessed because you are needed here. And if ever you feel that you're in a dark place, reach out to me. I do, clearings online, video. I can do it in person. I'm here to help, and I'm an earth steward. So I want to bless as many people and help as many people as possible on this journey. So bless everyone.
Oh, thank you so much for being on the show, Spirit River.
Thank you.
All your information will be in the notes on the
Wonderful.
YouTube description. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Petra, for having me.